What happens when a superpower abandons all pretense of international law and simply kidnaps the elected leader of a sovereign nation? The American Special Forces raid that captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro represents the most brazen violation of state sovereignty since the colonial era, marking the moment when American hegemony shifted from rule-based order to pure military imperialism. This isn't regime change through proxies or color revolution through NGOs. This is direct military seizure of foreign leadership that destroys every principle of international relations developed since Westphalia in 1648. I've spent decades analyzing how great powers justify military intervention, how sovereignty violations escalate into broader conflicts, and how legal precedents shape international order. But I have never witnessed such naked imperial aggression disguised as law enforcement that obliterates the foundation of the international system while establishing precedents that could justify similar operations against any nation. Trump's framing of presidential kidnapping as joint military law enforcement action reveals American strategic thinking that views sovereignty as conditional privilege rather than fundamental right, applicable only to nations that submit to American preferences rather than pursue independent policies serving national interests. The operational implications of presidential kidnapping demonstrate unprecedented escalation in American willingness to violate international law when economic pressure and military threats fail to achieve desired political outcomes. Capturing foreign leaders through military force represents warfare against states rather than law enforcement against individuals. Venezuelan sovereignty was violated through military invasion designed to remove elected government rather than arrest criminal suspects under legitimate legal frameworks. International law recognizes no American authority for conducting law enforcement operations on foreign territory without host nation consent or valid legal extradition procedures. The precedent established through presidential kidnapping could justify similar operations by any nation claiming domestic legal authority over foreign leaders whose policies conflict with claimed national interests or legal frameworks that other nations reject as invalid. The strategic context reveals how Maduro's capture serves broader American objectives beyond Venezuelan regime change to encompass resource control and geopolitical positioning against Chinese and Russian influence in Latin America through direct military action rather than diplomatic engagement. Venezuelan oil reserves exceeding 300 billion barrels represent strategic assets that American control could deny to Chinese energy partnerships while providing American companies with petroleum resources essential for maintaining global energy dominance against rising powers. Maduro's removal enables installation of American preferred leadership committed to reversing Chinese and Russian economic agreements while providing American corporations with access to Venezuelan resources through contracts favorable to American rather than Venezuelan interests. The international law destruction encompasses American abandonment of legal frameworks that previously constrained superpower behavior while establishing precedents that could trigger systematic collapse of sovereignty-based international order through normalized military intervention for resource appropriation. Presidential kidnapping violates fundamental principles of state sovereignty, diplomatic immunity, and territorial integrity that provide foundation for international relations between independent nations rather than imperial relationships between dominant and subordinate territories. The Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, UN Charter provisions, and customary international law all prohibit military capture of foreign leaders, regardless of domestic legal justifications that lack international recognition or legitimate procedural frameworks.